Today in the show, we have the House of Mouse headlines brought to you by laughingplace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. This episode is being released on July 26th, 2023, and here's what's been going on in the world of Disney recently. Bob Iger sticking around for even longer, Disneyland Paris revamping its annual pass program, new details on Fransokyo Square, and more.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
Before we jump into the news, I need to make a statement about the strikes currently underway. As you've probably heard, the Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, better known as SAG-AFTRA, which represents television, film, and streaming talent, including myself, as well as the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, are all on strike against the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or AMPTP, which represents the major studios, including the Walt Disney Company. Since the drastic shift in the way entertainment is consumed on streaming, the talent has not been compensated appropriately as the studio heads reap the benefits of our talents. For that reason, we are on strike. Yes, as a union member, I too am striking against the AMPTP. In turn, since SAG-AFTRA has stated that discussing old and new film, television, and streaming media is a way of promoting the folks we're on strike against, I am not allowed to discuss movie, television, and streaming news until this strike is over, or else I'd figuratively be crossing the picket line and thus betraying my union. I fully support this strike, and therefore I won't be having those discussions. While you may hear some other podcasts still discussing old and new media, that likely means that the people involved either aren't SAG-AFTRA union members or have no interest in becoming one in the future, with other possible reasons ranging from them currently being under a contract which they're allowed to fulfill, or just being scabs. The AMPTP is wholly on the wrong side of history here, and it's unfortunate that it's come to this point. If you're feeling the need for that sort of content during this time, you can always read about it if you desire at laughingplace.com. Kyle and I will be discussing this more in today's House of Mouse headlines, but I wanted to make this statement at the top of the show to hopefully help it make more sense. It's time to seize the day. The Disney100 Celebration will be ramping up at Walt Disney World in the coming weeks as special offerings come to EPCOT. Starting September 22nd, guests will be able to visit a platinum Mickey statue like the one at Disneyland, and with the correct quote from the start this time. Speaking of Mickey, guests will also be able to hug and snap a photo with him and Minnie in their platinum Disney100 outfits in the Imagination Pavilion. Elsewhere, an all-new mural at the heart of World Celebration will allow guests to see how many of the 100 Disney characters they can find in the incredible scene. Spaceship Earth will also become part of the celebration, lighting up each night with special colors and lights, accompanied by the Disney100 anthem, a unique rendition of When You Wish Upon a Star. Of course, special menu items and merchandise will accompany the celebration as well. The Disney100 Celebration will kick off at EPCOT on September 22nd and will continue through December 31st. A new dining location will soon be making its way to Walt Disney World. Manish Chauhan, the acclaimed James Beard Award-winning chef and Food Network star, and Vivek Diora, an international hospitality entrepreneur, are bringing their famed Indian cuisine to Disney Springs with the opening of EAT, EET, later this year. While we know that EAT will serve a modern Indian-inspired menu, not much else is known at this time, but we'll surely hear more about the location in the coming weeks. A court ruling could lead to a pay raise for Disneyland cast members. Recently, a California appellate court ruling found that the resort illegally skirted a 2018 measure that was meant to raise the minimum wage for businesses that had tax rebate agreements with the city. While Disney claimed that this didn't apply to them, cast members sued, arguing that it did. Additionally, Orange County Superior Court Judge William D. Claster previously found that while Disney benefited from 1996 agreements with Anaheim that used hotel taxes to pay debt on a parking structure for Disneyland visitors, those agreements didn't constitute a tax rebate or a subsidy as described in the ballot measure. However, a 3-judge panel for California's 4th Appellate District disagreed with that interpretation, saying, quote, "Consequently, Disney receives a city subsidy within the meaning of the Living Wage Ordinance, and it is therefore obligated to pay its employees the designated minimum wages," end quote. A Disney spokesperson declined to say whether the company will appeal the decision, telling the OC Register that they are reviewing the opinion and considering our options. With Fantasmic still dark at Disneyland following the Great Dragon Fire of 2023, a replacement of sorts has debuted, albeit on a much smaller scale. Now the Jambalaya Jazz Band has taken their show aboard a river barge joined by guest favorite Queenie. The jazz act aims to add a magical atmosphere to evenings along rivers of America. They will perform high-energy New Orleans tunes and other Disney favorites. There are currently 3 sets of performances per night beginning at 7:35 p.m. Meanwhile, additional entertainment has been teased to be coming to New Orleans Square, with more information expected soon. Over at Disney California Adventure, Pacific Wharf's transformation into San Fransokyo Square is nearly complete. In fact, Disney has confirmed that the revamped land will officially debut next month. Additionally, the resort has revealed some interesting new details about San Fransokyo Square. For example, cast members in the area will represent the citizens of San Fransokyo and may be seen wearing apparel from some of the local sports teams, such as the Golden State Samurai. Also, guests in the area may notice selections from the Japan Pavilion at EPCOT and Tokyo Disneyland's Happy Ride with Baymax as part of the land's 90-minute music loop. Even Ghirardelli is getting in on the re-theme, as an updated mural was recently revealed, including some San Fransokyo touches. On that note, while several elements of the transformation are already evident, you can check out the completed area starting August 31st. As Disneyland fans continue to wait for the reopening of the Adventureland Treehouse, Imagineer Kim Irvine recently offered some new details. During a special presentation for those aboard Adventures by Disney's Around the World private jet itinerary, Irvine shared more about the new family, noting that the mother is a musician while the teenage daughter is an astronomer and astrologer. Additionally, the family's twin boys are naturalists, with one of them loving animals and the other loving plants. As for the father, he's a chef who's created a kitchen where the food can cook itself. Irvine also noted the return of some favorite treehouse items, including the Swiss polka playing organ and the water wheel. One detail left out of the presentation was an opening date, but the Adventureland Treehouse is still anticipated to arrive this year. Disney's Hollywood Hotel has officially reopened at Hong Kong Disneyland. Now guests can surround themselves in the glitz and grandeur of classic Hollywood at this richly appointed hotel by enjoying a swim in the piano-shaped pool or strolling through a lush garden of vintage cars and famous landmarks. The hotel also features new artwork and displays throughout the lobby, covering all elements of Disney from animated classics to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A tribute to the legendary ink and paint department of Walt Disney Animation Studios can also be found in the new Ink and Plate restaurant, which inspires guests to bring their creative passions to life with its quirky interior design, tableware, and decor. Of course, there's much more to discover at the newly reimagined Disney's Hollywood Hotel, so stop by the next time you're in Hong Kong Disneyland. As Disney Cruise Line's newest ship gets closer to setting sail, Disney has been sharing status updates on the Disney Treasure. The latest dispatch featured an artist rendering of the ship's stern, which will feature none other than Peter Pan and Captain Hook. While Peter is holding a bucket of paint while he's touching up the ship's logo, it looks as though some of that paint has spilled on Hook, and let's just say that he's not too pleased. Guests will be able to see the display along with everything else the Disney Treasure has to offer as its 2024 delivery date draws nearer. And now it's time to bring in Kyle Burbank from laughingplace.com. Welcome back, Kyle.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
It's been some news has been going on recently, huh?
The way that we have these 2-week breaks, sometimes it's like packed with a bunch of like little things, and other times there's just like a couple of really big stories, and then it feels like there's nothing else, even like tiny. And that was, I feel like, best describes this past couple of weeks, where I'm looking through and I'm like, yeah, there's really not much except for these big stories.
Yeah, some of which are, not necessarily Disney specific, but of course at the top of the show, I touched on the whole strike situation. But, Disney CEO Bob Iger also had some stuff to say about it, so I'm going to start with reading his quote. So, quote, these are Mr. Iger's words. "It's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces in this business and all the challenges we're facing. The recovery from COVID, which is ongoing, is not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. I understand any labor organization's desire to work on behalf of its members to get the most compensation and be compensated fairly based on the value that they deliver. We managed, as an industry, to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers and would like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to the set of the challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive." Oh, Papa Iger, what are you doing?
I had flashbacks to the ScarJo statement.
Yes, which was a Chapek statement, right? Yeah. That's what's so weird about this. Bob Iger, listen, I think the man thinks, in ways that people like the general public probably wouldn't like on a regular basis, but he is a smart enough man to craft his words and really have calculated statements. This is so uncalculated. It just seems so out of character for him.
Just because you don't think it's smart. I mean, you make a good point. Yeah, he didn't say this like off the cuff. He didn't misspeak. He meant to say this. So there is a calculation. It's just we don't know what calculation.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like they're on the wrong side of history is what it comes down to. I'm sorry. Like this is all insane. Streaming and AI have simply changed this industry drastically. And we need to stop calling streaming and stuff like this new media. It's been over a decade. It ain't new. The contracts don't work. It works for the studios. They're all getting richer. But like the people who make the product, the talent, it doesn't work.
I mean, yes, they are getting richer in many ways. But as we've seen with Disney Plus, they're also losing a lot of money. So it's not working for anybody.
Based on decisions they made. Like let's face it, Disney Plus...
But the mistake was making more content and employing... They're creating more... There's more content to be made. There's more people doing more jobs. But unfortunately, not all that content is making it, and then they're losing money. So, they're making bad decisions, but on the other hand, they're employing people, so it's hard.
My argument is more over-budgeted content. Like Disney Plus should have never gone down this realm. Any streaming service should have never gone down this realm of like feature budgets on streaming. That was the mistake. I get why they did it. They all did it to, rise to the top when it comes to the streaming stuff. But, 80s and 90s mid-budget worked and made a crap ton of money, and it can work again. It's a problem, but yeah, this was just like a nasty comment that he made, and just, I don't know. It's kind of crappy.
That was kind of like the headline of that entire interview, but there were some other interesting things I thought too. He was asked about Pixar and acknowledged that some people might have gotten to the habit of thinking that things were going to arrive on Disney Plus quickly. But then he said, and I think you'd have to agree that there were some creative misses. I was like, do I have to agree with that? Like, I've enjoyed all of Pixar's recent output. Which are these must-agree creative misses are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, was he on Happy Gas or something when he did that interview?
No, I think he was on. It was like not contentious, but he seemed a little annoyed during it. Like, obviously, he chose David Faber to do this, but Faber, yeah, he was kind of, it was all a very weird thing because obviously they wanted to do the next thing we're going to talk about. They wanted to get that done the day before he does this interview. Then he wants to seemingly do this big signaling thing about what's happening as far as his thoughts on linear without saying too much. And of course, as a journalist, David's going to press him on what those specifics are, and Iger's not willing to give those. But then also Faber was bringing up like, twice he asked about John Lasseter, like, was losing John Lasseter really affecting the company today? And it's like, well, that seems kind of out of left field. So I don't know if he was grumpy about external forces or just wasn't happy with how the interview was going. But yeah, he did seem a little different than normal.
What was the outlet that was interviewing him?
CNBC.
CNBC. Yeah, I really didn't like those statements. And listen, I have been very critical of Bob Iger through the years for as long as I've been doing the podcast. I mean, yes, we're all very happy to have him back because Chapek was horrible, but that doesn't mean that Bob Iger's a saint. And that statement just really pissed me off. And I do want to add, somebody asked ChatGPT if AI were to replace a company CEO or a writer, which job would be more appropriate for AI to take over? And here's what ChatGPT had to say. This made me laugh. Between the two, it is more likely that AI would be better suited for tasks related to a corporate CEO than screenwriting. As a CEO, much of the decision-making process is based on data analysis, risk assessment, and resource allocation, which are areas where AI is particularly effective. AI can process large amounts of data quickly and accurately, identify patterns and trends, and provide insights that can help inform strategic decision-making. While a CEO also requires interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence to lead and inspire employees, build relationships with stakeholders, and represent the company in the public domain, AI can assist in certain aspects of these tasks, such as providing feedback on employee performance or analyzing social media sentiment. On the other hand, screenwriting involves creativity, imagination, and storytelling skills which are difficult for AI to replicate. AI may be able to analyze data on successful screenplays and to provide insight into what elements are most popular, but ultimately, the creative process of writing a compelling screenplay relies on human intuition and emotion. In conclusion, while AI can assist with some aspects of both roles, it is more likely to be better suited for tasks related to a corporate CEO than screenwriting. Watch out, folks. The people who are fighting for the AI to work out, it's kind of like, this might bite you in the butt. So, it just kind of made me laugh when I saw somebody actually ask ChatGPT the question. So, in any case, that's a thing. Anything else we want to say?
What does your picket sign say?
I have not picketed yet because I've been very busy with a certain convention coming up. But I don't think the SAG-AFTRA signs are as clever as the WGA ones have been. Like, I don't know if there's a blank space to write on. I think it's just SAG-AFTRA strike. You know what mine would say? Mine would say "seize the day," and I would be picketing outside of the Walt Disney Company because it's down the street from me. So, yeah. Mine. What would yours say?
I just want a t-shirt. Although you guys chose black. Little weird choice in the summer.
I also want to mention that Dwayne Johnson has donated a historic sum to SAG-AFTRA strike support. It's the largest single donation ever received from one individual at one time. So go you, Dwayne Johnson. I always knew I liked that guy. Every interview I see with him, he seems like a genuinely good guy. I should really get him on this podcast.
I actually just got a response. He heard your message, and do you know what he said?
No, I'm done.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Ah, you're welcome. Good one.
That is not a reference to any media ever produced.
That is correct. I don't even know. That was a song I just made up, a little line I just made up there. But in any case, not to make this about me, but I'm going to. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I am a SAG-AFTRA member, and with some of the recent new rulings put into place, you've already heard how I've had to make changes to this show until the strike is over. And honestly, it's really screwed up my work for the rest of the year. So I will shamelessly plug the Disney Coast to Coast Patreon page right now, where I offer exclusive bonuses. If you ever considered becoming a patron of Disney Coast to Coast, there's truly never been a more helpful time to join, so thank you for considering. And Dwayne Johnson, if you happen to be listening, you can find the Disney Coast to Coast Patreon link in this episode's description. Let's move on because the Walt Disney Company Board of Directors announced that Bob Iger has agreed to continue to serve as Chief Executive Officer through December 31st, 2026. So that means he's added another 2 years to his contract.
Going back to the interview, I just want to mention that the funny part when it started was he's like, I did enjoy retirement. And yet, we had that long goodbye. Like, it's funny when you watch the last Barbara Walters episode of The View, because they talk about, oh, Bob, you're retiring. And that was like 2000, I guess not 5, but 15 or something. And then, it just kept going and getting extended. And then now he comes back for 2 years. We all are winking. And then he's like, the transformative work. That's the thing. When you watch these interviews with him, he really has like a phrase that he wants to drive home, whether it's an earnings call or an interview. And this time it was the transformative work. And the reason he's staying on is because they're not done with the transformative work.
No, he's not done because he's failed at what they brought him back to do. He had
the transformative work, Jeffrey.
Nope. He had one main thing to do: find a successor. He has failed over and over. He's failed once for sure with Chapek. Fail. And now he can't find somebody in 2 years. Come on. You ain't
and
looking
the CFO
hard.
left.
Yeah, but come on. She wasn't going to get the role.
I'm just saying. She was an option.
He's failed. He's failed at the job. And like I said, I know we're all happy to have him back considering how bad Chapek was. But like, in my opinion, he's ruining his legacy. He's making stupid strike comments. Disney Plus is in trouble. Park attendance is down. The $72 billion Fox acquisition was clearly a mistake. He can't seem to do the one thing he was brought back to do. I don't know. Not looking good for Mr. Iger. Maybe he needs another 2 years so that his legacy isn't ruined by the end of. Well, it's the end of next year, right? Yeah. Basically, he's got a year and 4 or 5 months left on the first contract.
I have also been taking a pool, I guess would be the term, of whether on Disney's actual 100th birthday, whether the stock price will be Disney 100, like above or below. Right now it's at 86.60, which is...
That is bad.
That is just barely above, although that's the daily low. I don't know what the 52-week low is $84. So it's near that.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good. It was up to like, what, 140 at some point?
I mean, during the height, I think its all-time high is almost 200.
Jeez. And now it's down to...
52-week high is 124.
Wow, not good.
No, not good. Not good for my IRA either.
How do you feel about Iger sticking around? I'm honestly done with him. Like,
I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, yeah, we kind of need to know. I don't think the next time we get a CEO, it's going to be one of those sign it over on a Thursday and I'll just chill for 6 months or whatever it was with Chapek. I think we're going to have a more formal heir apparent. And the fact that we don't have one yet was kind of like, okay, yeah, this is... In fact, I joke when they announced the David Faber thing, because they announced it ahead of time, like even in investor relations page and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, are they going to extend his contract? And I thought maybe he'd announce it then, but nope, they announced it the day before. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but I don't know there's a lot of questions around Disney. And yeah, it sounds like, we kind of glossed over it. It sounds like he's willing to offload ABC and the cable networks, and they're looking at new things for ESPN. I saw the report from CNBC that they might be trying to partner directly with the sport teams and give them ownership in ESPN to presumably cut down the amount that they pay them every few years for the licensing to show the games and stuff. So yeah, this company is very bloated right now, and it sounds like it might be a much leaner thing. So you mentioned him tarnishing his legacy. He's literally about to tear it down.
Yeah, and it sounds very reminiscent of a time when we were very, very little, or I was very little, and a certain man named Michael Eisner came in to save the day, because right before Eisner, that was the talk. Let's sell off all these different divisions of the company. And that was the plan. And it took Eisner to be like, no, that's not what we're doing. Now, to be frank, I think there are certain areas of Disney that could and should be sold off. Like, I think the company's too large, but I think that for entertainment as a whole across the board these days, I'm sick of everybody owning everybody. But I don't think ABC and stuff is like once again, the Fox thing, I don't even know how that was allowed. Like, that was insane. That, like, Trump was in office then, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been allowed. Like, that would have been considered a monopoly. Right?
I don't think so. I think we just talked about how many streaming services and stuff there are. There's more outlets than ever producing content. So I don't think that getting those assets was really just because they have stuff people like, I don't think makes them a monopoly.
But there's like 7 studios in LA. What's the, I can't remember it's like, there's so few. Like, people don't get that from, yes, there's a lot of streaming services and stuff, but like the number of big studios in LA that distribute all this stuff are so few.
But the remaining part of Fox still does make stuff too.
The Fox thing to me is insane. And I'm contradicting myself, but like, I don't want to see it all fall apart, but I guess I'm okay if certain things go away. Yeah, there are things that just aren't working. And once again, the entertainment industry has just changed drastically in the last decade, and people need to figure this out because like the old rules just aren't working, and they're trying to make them work, and it's a problem. So yeah, there's all of that. And anything else you want to add about it? By the way, I just hope, who is it, Zaslav from Warner Brothers? I hope he doesn't come over and take over Disney, because talk about a piece of crap. My God. He's like as bad as Jack Warner. Some of the statements he's making about the strike and everything. He's literally like been quoted, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically been like, yeah, our strategy is to hold out until writers can't afford rent and lose their houses. That is our strategy. When comments like that are being made publicly, there's a huge problem.
To be clear, is that actually attributed to him or assumed to be him? Because I've heard it attributed to Iger, and I'm pretty sure when I saw the article, it was an unnamed executive.
I'd never heard it associated with Iger. I keep hearing it associated with Zaslav. And frankly, it seems on character for him, but I could be mistaken. The fact that any studio executive is uttering those words is some of the shadiest crap. And that's why I'm just like, you're on the wrong side of history. Like, if that is your goal, is to make people homeless when you're making tens of millions of dollars off of these talented people, like, go screw yourself. That's basically what I think. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to see any other way on this. And so I apologize to any. Actually, I don't apologize. If you disagree with me, go screw yourself, I guess. I don't know.
Do we have any happy news we could talk about?
Let's see. Well, this next one's you. I do have happy news toward the ends, but this next one I want to talk about. Disneyland Paris announced details about its updated Disneyland Pass annual pass program, which marks a major overhaul from the previous offerings. Now, you specifically wanted to talk about this. I know you have had a Disneyland Paris annual pass for numerous years, and you're not so happy about. So now you can be angry. Let's hear.
Yeah, I'll be angry now. It's something I actually know about. Yeah, so we went to Disneyland Paris several times, and so for a while, what we did was my wife had the top tier pass, and I had the second one, because then she would, she had the bigger discount. So when we bought food and merchandise, she would use her pass for that. But then both of us, they had a special entrance into both parks that you got to use for those top two tiers. And you also got in early. So you could go, we just go and stroll around the park on weekday mornings, and it was lovely. Unfortunately, many of those benefits are now gone. So for the top tier, not only did it go up by about a third, I think it went up by €200, and only the top tier pass gets in early now. There's no more private entrance. And the discounts decreased slightly. I think the merch went from 20 to 15. And then some other really big benefits went away as well. So one of them being, used to have something called privilege tickets. So like there was an interim where I hadn't renewed my pass yet, and we decided it didn't make sense because we didn't have another trip planned. So she was able to buy me a heavily discounted ticket to the parks as part of her privilege tickets. Those are now gone. And there's all sorts of, they used to get special viewing. You could reserve special viewing for the parades and things like that. And that's gone. So yeah, just paying more and taking out there's not even hotel discounts. They used to have hotel discounts as part of it. And that's gone too. So yeah, pretty crazy. The only benefit that I've seen is that when they reopened, of course, like all the other parks, they had reservation system, and their reservation system, there was like an allotment of AP reservations. So you'd notice that on some like weekends and busier days, they would show as being not available. But then as the date got closer, then availability would reopen. So if you're planning a trip, it makes it a little difficult. Now the reservations will apparently come directly out of the real pool of reservations. So that's an upgrade, but everything else about this sucks.
Who do they think they are? The U.S. domestic parks here?
I know.
Unbelievable.
But no, I think, that's kind of where it comes down to, is I feel like this program predates Disney's takeover of DLP, because they always had a hand in it. But it was split. And then I think circa 2016 or so, then they took over full ownership. So I feel like, this is the reason that it's getting so much worse, is because it was actually really good before. And these perks that, never existed domestically existed over there, and they finally cut them off. But it's still unfortunate, and I'll miss it.
So Damaro checked some spreadsheets, huh?
I guess.
And honestly, there was probably a spreadsheet checked where they looked at like couples who bought passes and saw, hey, one's got top tier, then the other one has the one right below that. They're taking advantage of the upper tier's perks. So now, like you said, that doesn't exist. They've also gone from 4 passes to 3. So now there's just a bronze, silver, and gold starting at €289 and all the way up to €699. So yeah, it's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. I know that you used it a lot. Do you think you'll get one again, or does it not make sense? I guess you'd both have to get the top tier pass.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on how often we plan on going. I think it's probably still a decent value because when we go, we usually go for like a week, because I have this rule that if I'm going to fly for 9 hours, I'm going to hang out there a while. I'm not getting on a plane and flying back another 9 hours right away.
Yeah.
So that's usually it. So yeah, we might, but yeah, just disappointing, especially like the private entrance. That was so nice. Because
really,
their
that's
scanners
the perk?
are not that. Their scanners are not that great, so it's not even about the line. It's just a matter of it working.
Well, according to Disneyland Paris, throughout the year, unique encounters and exclusive events will be offered to pass holders. And additionally, starting September 29th, annual pass events will return with new and exclusive themed events being held 4 times a year. Did you ever get to take advantage of those?
Yeah, so I mean, they were hard ticket events, but we got to go to one around New Year's. It was probably 2019, right before everything. And it was cool because it was like a review of the rest of the year. So they brought out, like, every couple hours, they brought out something from one of their themed quarterly events, and had brought back some other entertainment and stuff like that. So like you'd go into Frontierland and it'd be Halloween, and then you'd go into Fantasyland and it'd be Christmas and stuff like that.
That's kind of cool.
It was very cool.
Dude, that should totally be a Disneyland After Dark event.
Yeah.
If they did that in like May, like basically halfway to each of the holidays, somewhere between there, that would be huge. It's crazy. By the way, speaking of holidays, I'm sure you saw Oogie Boogie Bash tickets went back on sale.
Poor Mike Celestino stayed in line all day and didn't get anything.
Unbelievable. I've heard a lot of people in that situation who are on there for 8 or 9 hours in that virtual queue, sold out in less than 3 days. Unbelievable. Like last year it was a week, which was like unprecedented by far. This year it's less than 3 days. I can't remember if we talked about what I was thinking. Did we talk about this thing, like the event I was talking, the halfway to Halloween event? I said to quote unquote fix the problem, even though I don't think it would fix it.
I don't remember.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But in any case, I feel like if they threw, you know how Disney loves to throw events and charge money so that you can go spend money?
Yes.
Yeah. Imagine if they threw a halfway to Halloween event where they're like, hey, you can come buy Halloween merchandise and you can come buy Halloween treats and you can come buy Oogie Boogie Bash tickets in person in downtown
Yeah, you
Disney.
did mention that. Still smart.
It's stupid, but likely, I would say. I mean, at the very least, I think we're going to have to go into August next year with the party.
No, they're going to introduce a new AP tier, which is everything except for still blocked out for those 2 weeks from the end of December and into January, and it's an extra $500, but it comes with a guaranteed Oogie Boogie ticket.
I mean, honestly, that's another bad idea, but also something they would do. Like, if it
would sell out immediately.
Or I'm not even saying it needs to include the ticket. What it needs to include is guaranteed access to buy a ticket if you want to buy one for every Disneyland After Dark event, every, Oogie Boogie Bash, all that stuff.
I mean, it's basically what they did with the Club Run Disney.
I don't follow Run Disney. What they did? Oh, Club Run Disney was a thing where you were guaranteed.
I think it was guaranteed or some extra level of early access to these things. But yeah, you're paying for the ability to pay for things. It's very similar. I think you also got like a higher corral, which is silly because the entire point of having like corrals is based on people's speed. So that
defeats the purpose.
A little bit.
Yeah, crazy. Anyway, so all that's happening. I'm sorry about your Disneyland Paris pass. I do want to mention I went to the Joel McGee Disneyland collection, which, if you don't know what this is, if you haven't heard of Van Eaton Gallery, folks, I highly suggest you follow them. They do like Disney, mostly Disney, some just kind of like generic entertainment auctions throughout the year. And you can often go visit their like storefront and see their stuff on display before it's auctioned. But every once in a while, they have like an individual person who has a massive Disney collection, and they go and like rent out a storefront. Like in this case, it was down the street from me at the Burbank Mall in an old Bed Bath and Beyond. And they took it over with all of this
Spirit
guy's
style.
Well, Spirit Halloween style, exactly. And they took it over, and for like a week, you could just go inside for free, check it all out, and then at the end of the week, they auctioned it all off. But I went to check it out. They had stuff from the Great Movie Ride. Oh my God. They had the figures from that first scene you would see with the women in the circle from Footlight Parade. They had one of those figures there, and they had a Figment figure, and they had Walt Disney's autograph. They had a piece of carpet from the Imagination Institute, which of course made me think of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, some Tower of Terror stuff. Like, it was very cool, a bunch of Haunted Mansion stuff. And it's just kind of neat that this exists and you can go for free and check it out. So highly recommend, especially if you live in Southern California, follow the Van Eaton Gallery. And also want to mention that episode 585 of Disney Coast to Coast, I actually interviewed Richard Kraft, who years ago did just that. He had his own solo exhibition through them and auctioned his entire collection. So totally worth checking out. Before we go, I want to remind everybody that this weekend, July 28th through 30th, 2023, is the Midsummer Scream Halloween and Horror Convention at the Long Beach Convention Center. I am producing the Saturday night party, which is going to be a blast, as well as producing and hosting a panel on Sunday about the creation of the Disney Ghost Post interactive subscription game. Talk about things that people could not get their hands on. They sold 999 of them, and like they were gone in the first few minutes because somebody hacked the system, from what I've heard. But do you remember this Ghost Post game? This was from 2016.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Laughing Place. I know one of the people on our team got a hold of it, and I think they did at least one recap or were writing about it. But yeah, I know somewhere on our site, we've gone through so many different CMSs since then, but I'm sure they're around somewhere.
So Benji from Laughing Place actually made a video, and it's on YouTube because I was watching it, and he destroys the box. He is like holding the camera in one hand and like trying to open the package with another. He like rips open envelopes. Like, these things are highly collectible, and he's just like ripping them open and watching it like cringing. I was just like, oh my God, what are you doing? But in any case, so yes, Laughing Place did cover it in an interesting fashion.
You should see his unboxing video for his around the world travel.
Oh gosh, how's that all going? They're still out there, huh?
They are in Egypt at last I checked.
All right. Good for them. Excellent. Tickets for Midsummer Scream can be found at midsummerscream.org. I will be there all weekend, so make sure you come and say hello if you see me there. And come to the panel. The Ghost Post panel is going to be a blast.
I'm excited to hear all about it. But I did have a question. Going back to the Van Eden Gallery, did you spot something and you're like, man, I wish I could bid on this? And then did you go follow up and see how much it went for?
No, because I'm not that cruel to myself. And to be honest,
Come on, Carpet Square. How much could Carpet Square go for?
Yeah, and I actually have a piece of Carpet Square I'm looking at right now from the old Walt Disney Animation Building. Before they did the reno in the Roy E. Disney Animation Building down the street, somebody who was working there saved a square of carpet for me. So I actually have it.
They could spare a square. Huh?
And actually, you want to hear something funny? I took it to Van Eaton Gallery and was like, how much will this sell for? And it wasn't enough that I was willing to part with it. But I was like, listen, if this square of carpet can get like 10 grand, I'm 100% selling it. But no, but in any case, so I do have a piece of carpet, just not Imagination Institute carpet. Yeah, I don't know if the stuff I saw there, I don't know. I'm not a stuff person. Maybe they had like the top of the Tower of Terror elevator, which had like all the numbers and see the hand move. Like, that was kind of cool. I mean, the Walt Disney autograph is the thing that, of anything I would have wanted. Number one, it doesn't take up much space, but also it's Walt Disney's autograph. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you see anything?
I didn't look that much. I did see it looked like something involving the hitchhiking ghosts went for the highest
Okay.
amount, but I didn't see what that amount was.
Yeah, they had the 3 hitchhiking ghosts in the ones that like are in the mirror with you at the end of the attraction, which ironically have been missing from Disneyland's for quite some time. So when I saw them at this gallery, I was like, oh, well, if Disney needs some, they can come buy them. I do keep wondering though, like obviously at one point Disney owned all of this stuff and now it's gone to a private collector. I'm pretty sure Walt Disney Archives like goes to these auctions and buys some stuff back. But like, I would just be like, are you kidding? This used to be ours. And now we're paying tens of thousands of dollars to get it back. Like, this is crazy. But that's the way it works. So you said, is there any good news? I want to tell you my nieces and nephew are at Walt Disney World right now with a bunch of my family. I am not there for numerous reasons, but, it's really funny because we talk about this stuff every week. We do it from a very like analytical point of view. We're both very jaded, as is probably everybody listening. It's very refreshing to watch these young kids. My nephew is 6, I believe, going on 7 very soon. And he was at the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. And all I got to say is naivete is the greatest gift in the world, and hold on to it for as long as you can, because holy crap, he was watching the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular and he sees all the vehicles and planes and stuff blowing up and he goes, how do they repair these vehicles? Do they just buy new ones? And I was like, okay, that is literally one of the sweetest things I've ever heard in my life. Like, I loved it so much. So him and the nieces are all having a great time and they seem to be doing a lot and having fun. So yeah, that's the sweet story for the day, Kyle.
I thought you were going to say he tried to volunteer.
No, they don't do the volunteers anymore, sadly, but since a pandemic. But
well, no, but isn't it a plant? Don't they choose somebody as a volunteer that's actually...
I don't even think it's a volunteer. I think it's... Okay. I think it's like one of the stunt performers, if I'm remembering correctly. So
I haven't seen it in a really, 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 really long time.
I got to tell you, even just watching them watch it and like the crappy video of it and so I love it so much. I love that show. And yeah, it's just fun to see them having fun. The nieces, it's both of their first times at Walt Disney World. The nephew, he went when he was like 1, maybe 2, 1.5, something like that. So he doesn't really have memories of it. So they're all making first time memories. And even one of those nieces I brought to Disneyland earlier this year. So I'm like, girl, you're doing your first time going to the Disney parks and you're doing both coasts in 1 year.
She's doing Disney coast to coast.
Exactly. So, yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Kyle. Also want to mention, I was gifted a Hocus Pocus Lego set, which are very generous gifts, and thank you to my friend for that. But I posted about this on social media. I just want to say thank you to the numerous people who offered to build my Hocus Pocus Lego set, because I posted that like, this will be staying in the box. I will never put this together. And like multiple people have been like, I'll put it together for you. And I was like, that's really sweet. It's staying in the box. But I'm amazed at how many adults love to put Lego together, apparently.
It's fun. It can be frustrating, like it hurts your fingers sometimes, but also sometimes it's relaxing. And I really like the instructions. There's definitely been things where I put together where it's really not clear. Lego is very clear, very precise, and I appreciate that.
I have a lot of patience for a lot of things. Lego is not one of them. And therefore, it will be staying in the box. If I lived like in a permanent home, I would I'd let somebody put it together and I'd display it very nicely. But like, I ain't having that. Yeah, no. Nope, it'll stay in the box for now. But in any case, thank you to everybody who wrote in and offered to put it together for me. Before I go, anything you want to add, Kyle?
Yeah, I should have asked you this last time, but I forgot. What did you think of Rogers?
Rogers the Musical at the Hyperion Theater at Disney California Adventure. Have you seen it? Have you watched video?
I had to anchor a live stream that Benji did for the press preview, so I have basically seen it.
All right. Well, I saw it on that. In fact, I ran into Benji there and I told him, I'm like, hey, I just watched you in a Ghost Post video last night. But yeah, I saw it on the cast member, I'm sorry, at the media day. And it's a really enjoyable show. Like for a show that's there for 2 months, there's nothing like wow, like explosions are flying through the air or anything like that that would require a longer stay. I think what it feels like to me is a show that was built for a Disney Cruise Line. So I have a feeling it's going to jump to a Disney Cruise Line. I think I've given my theory of it closes August 31st. So I think a Halloween show can move in. That's my prediction. Know nothing about it. And, but the show is just fun. Like, you know, I won't say it's associated to any specific media, but if it was, I still haven't seen that media.
It kind of is, but I feel like the story is different. And it makes sense because this is, if they're staying true to where the song comes from, then it's supposed to be in world. And these are real people, not characters.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Knowing as little as I know about Marvel, I could follow the story quite nicely. It was enjoyable to watch. It was well produced. The cast is fantastic. And it's a fun show.
And it taught Mike Celestino what a patter song is.
Oh, he didn't know what a patter song was?
No.
Well, the boy needs to watch some more Gilbert and Sullivan then, doesn't he?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Although I also think of there's a bit on a TV show that the person gets the lead in West Side Story. I did okay. He's like, America, America.
I have no idea what media you're speaking of because I don't talk about media.
I know.
So listen, this is going to be the show for a while, folks. I don't think this strike is ending anytime soon, unfortunately. But seize the day. And yeah, Kyle, I really enjoyed Rogers. I really wish you could come see it because I know how much.
Well, hopefully it'll come back. But yeah, I liked what I saw of it. I like the way they kind of combine like we discussed how where it originated. It was supposed to be kind of like a hokey thing. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a good job at like staying true to that song, but then building out in a way that is kind of silly, but then has also got heart. And even the way that they took Save the City and then kind of expanded it, I thought it was a pretty cool I'm like, how are you going to go from this to like complete the story? And I thought they did it in a really clever way that was simple and worked.
I think we spoke about that in a vague enough way that we're clear, right?
Yeah. It's a theme park show. It has nothing to do with anything.
That's right. So, yeah. So, yeah, I wish you could see it, but it's great. Go see it if you have a chance. I hear it's very hard to get into, but of course they have premium packages that you can pay for to make sure you get in. So, August 31st, folks, that's the end date for it. Go see it when you can. And with that, I think that brings us to the end of the news for the week. What do you say, Kyle?
I think so.
To read more about any and all of the stories you've heard here today, simply visit the show notes link in this episode's description. You've heard the news, and now I want to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think about Bob Iger extending his contract yet again? Share your thoughts on that or any other topics mentioned in today's episode. Call 818-860-2569 and you may just hear yourself on a future episode of Disney Coast to Coast. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't miss any future episodes by subscribing and following Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast on your favorite podcast app, where episodes are available 24/7. Until next time, anything you need can be found in this episode's description. From additional information and links discussed in this episode found in the show notes, contact info to reach me, access to the show's official website, some free gifts from me to you, and so much more. So be sure to check out this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!